So we are here with Joey Mullen. I am not going to spend any time introducing Joey because why? We're just going to be wasting time. Everybody knows who Joey is. But what I do want to do before
Those
you
are the
even
best. I
say,
love the introductions. It tells me if you actually know me, like me, have a crush on me.
okay, well
I have a
then
crush on you. No.
let me tell this story. We all know you do, but
We've already
let me
been talking
tell.
for an hour before this, so I don't.
I want to
I'll let you
start
go.
this
Sorry.
off by telling a story, and it will be a special little story for you. Either it's going to be something that brings back fond memories, or you might blush a little and be embarrassed because we all know you don't need an ego boost. But back in, I'm going to say it was 2013. I started uploading in 2012. Started my channel in 2011. Started uploading in 2012, and I want to say it was 2013, but it might have been 2014. I was watching at the time. I was watching Dustin's Fish Tanks. I was watching Mark Bolton, who was Bali 12345 or whatever at the time.
African Cichlid Hub.
Yep, there was very few options to watch, but there was this kid. I watched this kid. He was this little scrappy kid, and yes, I said little, that would do all of these projects. And this kid introduced me to a method of making an overflow out of PVC piping, and I was like, I didn't even know that could be done, and it was so awesome. This kid's now don't jump in here, Joey, because you're going to want to correct me. I'm just telling you right now. I'm going to be saying this word wrong. This kid's name was Euro Joey. That's how I pronounced it. It was spelled, I believe, Uaru Joey. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but my simple brain pronounced that as Euro Joey. So I thought this kid was in the UK, even
Uh,
though he didn't have an accent. And I watched so many of this kid's videos. He was getting better and better as he went. He was the biggest channel in our community, which our community was like 12 people. And he was a big deal to me because our community was so small. There was so few people in it. If you were at the top, that was a big deal. And it was like a celebrity thing. I'm sitting in my living room one night. I might have even been sitting in my underwear. I don't know. And I'm watching TV and I have my tablet and I'm scrolling through and I get a notification. YouTube used to have, I don't know why they don't have it anymore. They used to have a direct message ability or feature on there. I get a notification, Euro Joey has messaged you. And I was like,
I slid in your
what?
DMs.
I said, what? Lisa, get in here. Can you believe this? I check it, and it had, in fact, it was a message from Euro Joey, who I later found out was pronounced Waru Joey. And it was a message from this kid who I admired, and had been watching so many of his videos. And the message said, hey, look, I like what you're doing. You're doing some really cool videos. And I want to share your channel in my Facebook group or fan page or whatever it was at the time. And it's called DIY Fish Keepers. At least I think that's what it was called. You may have changed the name. I don't know. And I literally did say, Lisa, you got to get in here because look, he messaged me. It was almost like getting a message from Keanu Reeves or something. I mean, I was like, this is out of control. And of course, that kid, Waru Joey, Euro Joey, turned out to be this guy. Uh, and we've been friends ever since. And, you know, after we did meet each other, you know, I realized you're just another schmuck like I am. But that was a really, really big deal to me. So much so that 10 years later, I'm still telling that story on my YouTube channel. So I don't know if I've ever thanked you for that message. Thank you for doing
You're
that.
welcome. You're welcome.
That was a big
I
deal.
remember those days. There for me, it was L.A. Fish Guy, New York Stilo, Mr. Saltwater Tank. At that point, Dustin's Fish Tanks. You know, Mr. Saltwater Tank was doing Friday morning quick tips. New York Stilo was going deep, in depth, hour and a half long videos talking about saltwater aquariums and systems. LA Fish Guy was doing aquarium installations, and Dustin was yelling at cameras still. Uh, I remember following them all. And I think it was at like 7,000 subscribers, I passed Dustin. I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. Um, and then I think at 10,000, I became the #1 aquarium channel and the first to hit 10,000. But I also remember why I created the name Waru Joey, which was, of course, Joey was taken. I used to just use YouTube as like a video hosting site, somewhere to post my videos so I could share it with my club, my aquarium club. And
That's what I did. Same thing.
yeah, so there's probably like 8, 9 different channels out there that exist of mine that I can't get into or remember. But I looked over at my tank. I tried Waru Joey, and it worked. I tried Waru Joey as the password, and that was my username and password for 3 years, just so I could easily log in. Then I seen these other channels like LA Fish Guy, Dustin's Fish, and they were inspiring to me. Like, man, people are taking this stuff serious. And I was like, if I could have the impact I did locally with my aquarium club, imagine what I could do worldwide on the internet, because at that time the internet was kind of expanding and evolving. But I was like, what am I going to be about? Like, I'm just uploading random updates on my fish tanks, a little project here, a tank there, a species spotlight type of thing here or there. Sometimes it was just silent video with, and you could hear me breathing, like but that's what you used to upload. No, you used to type in, like, for example, if you're recording discus, you go discus HD, like instead of 4K, you used to type in HD. But so I looked at all my videos, and my do-it-yourself projects were most popular. I was like, I'll be the do-it-yourself guy. So I deleted. That's why there's no videos from like 2 years or 3 years of my videos are missing. And then it's just this corner tank that I built the background. That's the first video on my channel because I deleted everything else. I should have just unlisted them, but I don't know if that was an option. But I became known for do-it-yourself projects. A couple years later, I realized that nobody knows what Waru is, let alone can pronounce it, nor spell it, just like you mentioned. And so I was like, I need a new name. And I just went to the comments, and they're like, man, you're the king. You're the DIY king. You're the king at do-it-yourself. You're the best. You're the king of DIY. I was like, damn, that has a nice ring. So I changed my channel to the King of DIY. And I felt a little arrogant and or cocky for calling myself the King of DIY, but it was a community that was calling me it and named it. And that's all I've ever been about, was like what's going on in the community. And then I took it very serious. Like, if I'm going to be the King of DIY, I'm going to have to pump out videos week after week after week. And those projects were taking like 40 hours every week to make one video. And at that time,
they were
YouTube
like 3-minute long videos too. They were really short.
YouTube wanted 3 to 5 minute videos at that time.
Yeah.
They wanted short videos. So it didn't matter how long the video was. It was just how long it took me to gather the materials, do some testing, build it a few times, make it so that it's easy for anybody to build. Plus the materials have to actually be accessible. And that was, I don't care how flashy or how extravagant this is. I want you to be able to actually do it. So it would take a tremendous amount of time. And, eventually the projects got bigger and bigger, only because my channel kept growing bigger and bigger. And I felt pressured to do it. Like, oh, you got to do bigger and badder every time. Like this video's got to be better than the last video. And, but yeah, I think that, it's definitely been a long road. There's been a tremendous amount of history over the past, 15 to 20 years on the internet for a lot of creators. And I think that is the topic of this podcast today for you, John, is the importance and or influence of influencers within our industry. And are they good or bad?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, influencer, that's a word that makes some people, including me, feel weird, but it's definitely it's absolutely a true statement that we are influencers. And I've had this in my mind for the longest time. Like, is this good? Because you hear negatives. You hear, I mean, I certainly do, and I'm sure you do. There's things that are said that are, from a negative standpoint. And it's like, you know what? I think both sides needs to be out there. It's something I want to talk about, the good and the bad. I mean, because it's not all roses and stuff like that. When you and I started in this hobby, before we were making fools of ourselves on the internet, magazines was the only influence. I mean, books, clubs.
Magazines and books, clubs.
But magazines, like, I mean, I can remember, and not just with fish keeping, but so many magazines I was subscribed to that I would just be like checking the mail when I get home to see. For me, it was like Transworld and Thrasher, the two skateboarding magazines. And then
tropical fish
fish
hobby.
magazines. Yeah,
I
and it was
I
so
remember
exciting.
I've never paid for one, but I've always got them because they used to come with 1 month free. So I used to just keep changing my address or ship it to a friend's house or mother-in-law's or my house or change the name every month. And I did it for like a year or so. So my bad.
But that's where, if there was influence in the hobby, that's where it was in the
Yeah.
magazines, and it was a lot of times just paid advertisements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so influencers, that's not a new thing. I mean, there's been
No.
influencers forever. Michael Jordan is probably, in my
The
opinion,
biggest,
like the
the biggest of
goat,
all
the
time.
biggest. And I think that that's when it really, really took off as far as influencers across all, uh, you know, things, not just fish keeping, but with fish
I think
keeping.
you should come up with the definition of influencer first, though, before you kind of discuss it. Just get everybody on the same page. In my opinion, and then you share yours. But in my opinion, an influencer is somebody that truly moves the needle within their industry and it obviously influences and impacts people's not only their buying decisions, but to take it a step further, but influences the way they do something or how they keep something. I don't think having a ton of followers or subscribers makes you an influencer by default. I think that you truly have to be influential, and I think that a lot of people. I think that the word influencer sometimes gets a bad rap because somebody will have a tremendous amount of followers and say things or do things or promote things that are only self-serving and are overall detrimental to the longevity of the hobby. The reason why you're talking to me today after 15 years is because I do have longevity. If I did anything or associated with or did anything off brand and or that challenged my integrity, I probably would have faded out years and years ago, but I'm sitting on my most successful year of all time right now. Uh, but yeah, in my opinion, an influencer is somebody who has a true impact on their industry.
I would take it a step further, and I would say an influencer is somebody who has a connection with their following, that if they say something, the following that they have has a trust in them and
Yeah.
believes what they're saying and will be influenced by what that
Yeah.
person says.
Okay. I think mine
Um,
was a little more vague. Sorry about that.
no, no. I mean, we're basically saying the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
because it does impact the industry as well. Because somebody can pay me a bunch of money, which has never happened, to promote a product, and simply because I've built the reputation that I have, and you have the reputation that you have, there will be people that will buy that simply because I've said I believe in it, and that can be taken advantage of. I'm happy
Mhm.
to say I've never have. Um, and I think most people don't, but I mean, there's a lot of people that can be bought too. But just the simple ability to influence decisions of other people, whether they be how to keep your aquarium, where to source your black diamond stingrays, which are making me so mad when I see them in the background. Uh, they're, yeah, see, on the screen now, it's condensed us down so much. Keep bragging, you big jerk. It's condensed it down so much. You see much less of it in the actual
Oh,
screen
you
that's
can't see
being
everything.
recorded. And now he's going to turn the camera so we can see him. That's my dream fish, and Joey knows it, and that's why he set this up this way. Both of my dream fish are actually in the screen right now. But anyway, um, for example, I've been a fan of black diamond stingrays for as long as I can remember. But if I had never seen them before and I see them behind you, I'm like, oh my God, Joey has those. Those are amazing. I would not
Mhm.
have seen those before if it hadn't been for you. You've influenced me to want to get those fish. Don't let that go to your head because it's not true. I knew these fish before I saw
It's not
you
what you
have
said.
them, but it
It's not
just
how
made
I
me
heard it.
very jealous. Whatever. It made me
I think it
very
doesn't
jealous
matter
that
if
you have them.
I think it doesn't matter if influences are good or influences are good or bad. I think that they're going to exist no matter what.
Sure.
I think that it's technically the community's responsibility to police everything and even to police us and to call people out and or to. I'm speaking. So I've always operated everything coming from my heart and coming from the right place and doing what is right overall. So, in my opinion, so long as you maintain integrity, do what is morally correct, and truly focus on the longevity of the hobby as opposed to what's most self-serving and or doing something to compete and or damage somebody else, I think that you're on the right track. I think a number of influencers are incredibly self-serving at times and could do a tremendous amount more positive within the hobby than they actively are. And I say that because even though they work and I work incredibly hard to get to the point where we can consider ourselves an influencer, what comes with that is a tremendous amount of responsibility. And we have to maintain that level of responsibility and respect it and do what's right as often as you can. Now, if you want to showcase yourself on the internet for as long as I have, everything that you ever do or say, depending on how much you share, and I always share, I'll overshare, I guess.
Me too.
You're going to put yourself in a position where you might come across as like, I don't like him. I don't like the way he talks or this, that, or the other thing. But the main focus should be on, are they bad for the actual hobby? And I think that's what your question is like, are influencers good or bad for the hobby? And I guess the answer is, of course, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. I think that at times, like I said, it's difficult to say like, oh, somebody will sell out when they didn't have morals or standards and or integrity in the first place. They don't see it as selling out. They see it as, I want to make as much money from this as I possibly can, and I'm going to do it however I can. And because we don't really police the community or influencers, a lot of people can get away with it. I remember a time when you couldn't make a penny off YouTube. There was a YouTube partner program, but it was only for the select top. I remember making videos for like 5 or 6 years and I didn't make a penny. I remember what it's like to do this because you're doing it for the right reason. Right. Am I going to sell out after 15 years because, somebody offered me 20 grand? No. I have a legacy now. This is a part of, I've dedicated from the age of 25. And if anybody can take a step back and think about what you did from 25 to 40 years old, that's your life's work. This is everything that I am.
Prime years.
So it's the most productive years of my life dedicated to the aquarium hobby. And I guess the other thing is like, because we are YouTubers and because if you open up your creator app on your phone, what's the first thing you see? How your video is performing. Number 1, number 9. And when it hits that number 10, it sucks. But YouTube makes us competitive. So when we're having a bad week or a bad month, we see other channels that are doing really, really, really well. And they're like, oh man, that sucks. I make way better videos than them. They're not even like responsible, or we're automatically competitive. So that also has to be taken into consideration when we think about our YouTubers good or bad. And when we're going to talk, or influencers good or bad, and when we consider them being bad, is it because we're coming from a place of envy or jealousness or jealousy, or are they really bad? And that's where you have to bring it back to, why are they doing it? It doesn't matter how well they're doing it. Is it because it's only self-serving? It only serves to help them, and it actually damages the hobby? Or are we just competitive by nature because over the past few years or decades for some of us, YouTube has taught us to be competitive and make a better video the next time, and you have to be better than the next one and the next one and the next one. And then you see somebody hit the algorithm and you're like, damn, I've been doing this for so long, and look at them shoot up. So right. There have been at times people that were bad for the hobby, and they were influenced. We're not
going to name names though.
No, that's fine. And what I'm getting at is, like, even if I said their names, you wouldn't know who they were anymore.
Right.
The industry took care of them themselves. When you only do this for the numbers, when you only do this for money, you eventually gas out, or burn out, I think is what YouTubers call it. And you just fade away. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing it for the right reasons, there's a tremendous amount of longevity in it. However, there's also YouTubers that shoot up from nowhere, and they're like, oh, I'm going to do this forever. I can assure you right now the money is not going to last forever, and that views are not going to last forever. Everybody's changes with time, and the time tested that I've seen that lasts the longest is people that are truly know what they're talking about, have real experience, um, and have true integrity. Because once a lot of people get a taste for money and views, and I can spot them a mile away, everything goes
Mm-hmm.
downhill. And it
Well,
happens to everybody. I remember when I went viral and I was making hand over fist in money in like 2018. And automatically it went straight to my head. No matter what I do, no matter what video I make, everything's going to be awesome. Everybody loves every one of my videos. But what I didn't see coming was everything that came with the money and the perceived fame. Um, I can assure you, you'll find out who your real friends are, who your real family is. And it seems as though, for me, at least in my situation, is that when you're doing really good in life, somebody says, "No, no, I need to test you a little bit more," and what the translation is, you're about to be humbled. Um, but I guess for me, I used to be competitive and I used to care about this type of a conversation to the point where I used to like even look at other channels and not have a ton of respect for them. But what's the point? There's nothing positive that comes out of being negative. Um,
we talked
all
about
I
that
want to
before we
do,
started recording.
yeah, all I want to do is, no matter what I'm going through, my responsibility to my audience is to get on camera, press record, and smile. It does not matter what's happening in my life. And you can think back the last 15 years of like the top worst things. They all kind of happened to me like in the last few years, like last 2-3 years have been pretty rotten for me. But I kept getting on and kept getting on and kept getting on because I do believe I'm serving a bigger purpose. I do know that there are people out there that need to see my videos and want somebody positive, regardless of what's going on in their life. They kind of like to escape for a minute, press play, and see what Joey's up to. As I'm also in a unique situation where I've had a lot of success and I don't have to worry about brand deals or sponsorships. And I've gotten to that point where I've been nitpicky of like, and I'll be fair, is anytime I get a sponsorship, and some people aren't going to like this, but I giggle and laugh thinking I would have did it for free. I already use it.
Right.
Yeah. So, more recently was Northfin sending me a bunch of food. And I was
Hold
like,
that thought.
yeah,
You mean like this?
yeah. And I was like, well, joke's on you. I've been using this since before YouTube. You were a company that sponsored my aquarium club that I spoke with Darius way back in the day. And he was excited to see that I've been feeding it for that long and getting to see the growth of YouTube. And then he got to see me in person and see the crowd and interacting and all that sort of thing. And I think that's a big eye opener for the industry as well, is this how important creators can be to hobbyists. But even more importantly, and it absolutely has to be said, without them, there is no us. We do not exist. So that's why integrity and doing what's morally correct and right when you're creating your YouTube videos is of the utmost importance. But,
Well, I think it's important. You talked about showing everything. I feel like for me, I mean, I can't tell you how many videos I've made that are me sharing mistakes that I've made.
yeah.
That fish ended up dying, or I had a silver arowana jump out of my tank and it was my fault, and I felt horrible about that. And things happen, and that, as hard as it is to make those videos and call myself an idiot and say, hey, I made this mistake. I've had people walk up to me in person at these events and say, I'm so glad you did that because I was making that mistake, and I'm not making that mistake anymore. So now my fish isn't going to die. So it's a hard thing.
Doing that is like a double-edged sword. Obviously, you become more relatable and things happen, but then it discredits you as a YouTuber. So you can remember back at a time that if you were a YouTuber trying to grow your channel, the last thing you want to do is show any sort of mistake. You want to be taken as an expert. But I made a video one time called "I Made a Big Mistake," and all I did was put silver dollars in with my Asian arowana. It didn't work out, and I had to send them back. But that video did like 1 million views, and it showed creators like, hey, you can show mistakes and also be rewarded for it because the internet loves drama. And when you make a big mistake or a fish dies, that sort of thing happens. The hardest video I have ever made in terms of fish dying was when my Asian arowana buddy jumped, and for over the course of 3 days, I think it was like 6 million people tuned in to watch what's going on with this fish. But it also showed YouTubers that, hey, this type of stuff also is relatively rewarding. I didn't do it for the rewards. I was like, that's the first fish that ever touched the 2000. Everybody knows this fish. I can't just like disappear. And that's kind of when I also said to myself, everything moving forward, regardless of the outcome or how people view me, has to be transparent. The double-edged sword to that is some people will create scenarios.
Yes.
And I've seen it time and time and time again. And just to get those views, where I've talked to somebody and two people in general where they explained the video before the video was filmed or that this event even happened. And I was like, bro, you can't be doing this. Like that is not cool. It is not right. It is not fair. But that's the other side of influencers. Like, don't believe everything they're saying or you're seeing, because not just because you like a person or they're coming across on camera as a likable person, a lot of the times it's a character. Imagine going for a job interview and then you just act like how you act around your buddies. You're not getting that job.
Right.
But YouTube is kind of like entering into an interview as soon as you hit that record button, except you can stop it, Google it, go back in, edit it, change it. That's the downside.
What are you talking about? I've never Googled anything before making a video. What are you talking about?
I've memorized all of internet and Google, so I don't have to do it anymore. Turns out I'm a genius as well.
Yeah, I've known that all along. Have you seen this?
Nanobits. Yeah, I've got them all.
I was not even aware of this. I've been a Northfin fan for a very long time. I'm really excited. I'm going to get to meet Darius in a couple of weeks for the first time. Excited about that. But
I think it's his wife and son. It's like a actual family-owned business. And I've heard some behind the scenes about the company, some negatives. And one of them is he refuses to scale. Like in terms of like, he doesn't want to get bigger and bigger and bigger. He's just complacent and happy the way he is. And from a business standpoint, like, run. Like if you don't invest into that. But from like a hobbyist standpoint, I'm like, it's kind of how I met him, 15, 16 years ago. Or not met him, but dealt with it. And, it's very rare that you run into companies like that these days, because all of them obviously are much larger corporations than you think and all about the bottom dollar.
I was surprised.
Same as an influential company is that you have to be careful.
I had a meeting with one of the reps who's no longer with the company from Northfin, a long video conference because they're up in Toronto, and
Jeff or something like that.
Jeff, yeah, and he showed me, which are you've probably seen them too, or you've been there. I don't know. He showed me photos of the factory, and I was surprised. Like it made me so happy to see that this is like a real grassroots operation. It's not this big giant multi-billion-dollar facility like maybe some other brands have, which that's not a bad thing. I mean, this is a family-run small operation. I was completely surprised because while we're on the topic of influencers, one of my good friends, Jay Wilson, is the whole reason why this product is in the United States.
Yeah.
You want to talk about influence? That's a guy that I don't remember what year it was, probably 2013, 2014. He found this product. He loved it. He wanted to bring it into the United States. And through his influence, the brand became a name in the United States. So I love that part about quote unquote influencers. And that's kind of how I've tried to be.
It was about eight years ago. And I don't know if you'll be able to read this.
It's too small, and plus,
you could probably pause it, but it's a payment to it's a payment to Northfin USA. When he was like running it, I ordered some food from him. I could get it locally, but I thought I'll just help him out. And I ordered but that, I remember that. It was easy to bring that type of stuff up, but
You ordered that from Jay, is what you're saying, or from Darius?
From Jay. Jay ran
Okay.
Northfin USA, so he was like working with them, distributing with them.
Yep.
Jay's like, if you can come up with a company that he hasn't worked for or with,
I
I'd be
know.
surprised. He's just he just tosses himself all over the place. But it's typically works with a lot of fun and cool brands. I don't know who he's with now. I can't keep up.
CJ.
Oh,
He's
CJ.
with CJ now, who just created, not doing a commercial for products.
Yeah,
They
that's
just
what this is.
created the best heater that's ever been made for the aquarium industry. We're not going to talk about that though, because we're talking about influencers, not products. But if y'all haven't seen
Influence
this,
influencers influence products. We decide whether it's going to be successful or not. Some of the best products of all time aren't that popular, whereas other ones that are really crappy are incredibly popular because influencers said they were awesome. So
sure.
one thing here's a fun little story. Not even a story, but how come nobody's using fluidized filters anymore? Weren't they the next biggest thing? I stopped using them because of what was happening. Everybody thinking that's the way to go, and then K1 came out with K1 Micro directly in answering water bottles. Like, hey, let's make them smaller so these guys can. So I stopped doing it because I was like, this isn't all that practical for everybody to use these. So I stopped using it. Now nobody's using it anymore. And that may or may not be the reason, but pretty coincidental how nobody was using it. And then I kind of repopularized the idea behind it. Wasn't
It's
the first
it's
one to ever do it, but
it's funny that you say that because back in those days,
yeah.
it was like if Joey's which what tank is Joey building next is what was going on back then. It was
Yeah.
like, well, it's going to have a fluidized bed filter and it's going to
Yeah.
have K1 in it, and it's like, and I don't mean that in disrespect. I'm just
No.
saying like that's how stuck you were on that.
Yeah.
And it's it works. It's a great system, so why
As
not
an
do it?
example
But
of influence, and you can definitely influence the way. So even when I travel these days and I go to people's home aquariums, one of the most rewarding things is I can always see a little bit of me in their aquarium somewhere, whether it's the way they did their lid, how they're doing, certain types of pothos, or the way that just little things that they're doing that I can say, I know where that came from. And if it didn't come from me, it would probably came from somebody where it did come from me, because a lot of things I certainly did popularize it, but that just goes back to like, if you're going to be an influencer, like that's the rewarding part, is truly influence people. Like just saying a product's awesome. It can be self-serving and you got some free stuff and maybe a few bucks, but those companies are making millions of dollars, millions hand over fists off of your viewers. So you have to be
right,
very careful, very, very careful with how you promote things, because a lot of the times, 90% of the products that a lot of us push are garbage. They don't have much longevity. Obviously, some products are getting better and better, but there's time tested filters that work. Like, I remember I made a video on the Fluval filters being overrated and
oh,
crappy
I
marketing.
remember that one.
Yeah. And I came across, I'm running 6 of them. They work. I'm just saying they're not what you think. And they have to be sized properly and looked at properly and that sort of thing. Um, I think that it's more important to be truthful and honest with your real opinions than not. But because I'm like that, I don't get a lot of deals. They won't even approach me because they know I'm probably going to say no. I might be too expensive. Little do they know, I've never really been, only I think maybe 2 or 3 companies have ever given me any money. And I can say who they were. I remember Fritz wanted me to use their salt because I had all these saltwater aquariums and like, hey, we'll pay you to use our salt. I was like, I don't care where the salt
Duh.
comes from. So
Right.
I started using them. That doesn't exist anymore. Who else gave me money to use their products? I think that was like literally it. Aqua Decor never paid me a penny. I'm like, why would I? I'm like, they're already expensive. Just give them to me. And I was like, that's payment enough, because I remember how much these things cost. In retrospect, I should have took the backgrounds and I should have demanded money, but I didn't want to ruin it. Custom Aquariums never paid me a penny, but I didn't feel like I was selling out because my fish don't care what glass box they live in.
That's right.
But a year later, Adam, the CEO of the company, said, Joey, I don't know if we can attribute all of this to you. I still have the text message, but ever since working with you, our business has literally doubled. He's like, you're creating jobs. And I was like, and I did it for free glass tanks. I was like, damn, I should have charged you. But I did it because I met with Adam and he was a good dude. And I didn't care. I was like, I don't care. in like I said, in retrospect, I should have charged the money. But that's something that influencers need to do. Is like, if you're going to use it anyway, then talk about it. But if
Right.
you're just getting something and being paid to use it, and or manipulating its uses, and fish are like dropping dead because of your misuse, or you don't technically believe in it, that's where the problem becomes a problem.
I'm
Yeah.
in a unique situation because I have a business where I sell a lot of products. And so, I mean, I get the emails just like I'm sure you do every single day from the next Chinese manufacturer that they're all making the same products and we have the
Yeah.
best aquarium light and all of this. And I don't get involved in all of that because I'm not going to promote a product. I mean, there are some products I will promote if I don't sell it, but usually if I make a video that's about a product, it's because I'm selling it and I want to sell more of it. I believe in it. I don't carry anything that I don't believe in. And we talk about products. I have, and also you talk about seeing remnants of you in people's aquariums. I know that feeling because every time I see a photo on Instagram or a video on YouTube and somebody has a CJ shark filter in their tank, I'm like, that's me. It might not be, but I still feel like it. And that was a scenario where CJ did not know me, did not reach out to me, even though I'm good friends with Jay. We didn't have a working relationship like that. I bought a CJ Shark ADV. I used it. I loved it. I decided to bring it in for my business. I did a
Mhm.
video about it. And then, we sold a whole bunch of them. 2 years later, one of the owners of CJ is in Dallas. And I get introduced to her. And I'm not going to try to do the Italian accent, but she was like, "Oh, you're the one." Because they weren't selling Shark
Yeah.
ADVs. Nobody was buying them. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
people in Italy are calling the warehouse here in Florida saying, "Why are we sending you all of these sharks? What's going on?" And it
Yeah.
was from my video. And
Yeah.
that's Jay called me and said, "That's what I'm telling them. It is because of your video," which is like, all right, pat myself
Yeah.
on the back.
It's definitely, you know, worst case scenario coincidental, but obviously when the evidence is there that supports the outcome, then it's, but that's what the importance of influencers are, is that, like, yeah, I just think everybody needs to have a tremendous amount of integrity and honesty. Other than that, I don't have a problem with you at all.
Well, I think the best thing that we can have, and this is what I try to establish, and I think you do too. I look at YouTube and I take the word "you" seriously. I
Yeah.
know how cheesy that sounds, but I take that word seriously. And so I try to approach things as if I was telling my friends. If
Yeah.
there's some trash product, I'm not going to tell my friends to go and buy that because they're going to buy it. It's going to suck. They're going to be mad at me because they spent good money on it because I told them to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell my friends that. Well, then I'm not going to tell my following that. And I know how cheesy that sounds, but that's kind of how I do things. And this is another thing you may not remember. You should, because it quite literally about 5 or 6 years later changed my life. You were the one that convinced me to monetize my channel. I don't know if you remember that. You probably convinced a lot of people to do it. You messaged me. We met for the first time in person in 2015 at the Aquatic Experience, which
Oh,
is no longer a thing. And
when you
you
had
want to talk
brown
about
hair.
influencers, we can talk about that show. But um, you had asked me not at that show, but through the direct messaging on YouTube, are my videos monetized? I told you no because I was afraid, since I'm a business and I've since day one of having my YouTube channel, I've always been a business. I'm afraid if I monetize it, people are going to think I'm selling out and all of this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And you were like, "I watch your videos. I know how much time you put into these things. You're sharing things that it's valuable to people. You should not be ashamed to make money from it." And now I make a
It's the
living from
norm
it. So
too.
thank
There's
you.
there's there's ads on YouTube all over the place. In my opinion, well, so I used to just make videos in my basement, and if I did not eventually take it more seriously and want to at least make money so I could do more. I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't be like in this gallery, but I wanted better equipment. I wanted better. I'll tell you how serious I was.
Oh boy.
If it's here.
Look at those black diamonds swimming back in the background. Look at those things. It makes me so mad. And plus, with Joey being in Canada, he is allowed to have Asian arowanas. I've always been so jealous of that.
So I bought this camera, a little camcorder. I don't use this style anymore,
I have one
but
very similar to that.
it's how to build an aquarium was filmed with this. The first time I ever appeared on camera was filmed with this. How I got this was in two ways. First and foremost, the acrylic I was given for free by a local company, and I said that in the video. But how I got this camera was a different story. I had a car that I was making payments on, and I couldn't afford anything else other than my car payments, food, stuff like that. So I called the financer and I said, "Hey, can I skip this month's payment? I think I get one of those a year or something." And they're like, "Yeah, no problem." I took my car payment and went and got this. 3 days later, they towed my car, and I lost my car. They repossessed it. But
Oh
that's
no.
how I got into. And so, anyways, at that point, I wasn't making a penny from YouTube. Not 2 pennies. I couldn't. I didn't even have 2 dimes to rub together. And I thought to myself, all the time I'm putting into this, before I go to work, because I had a 9 to 5 job, technically not, I was working 10 hours a day. Before I go to work, I work on my videos, my websites, club stuff. I go to work, I come home, I do it again, from morning till night type deal. On weekends was my time to film. I just, electricity bills high, all my extra money, my family's money is going into my hobby. I just got our car repossessed for a camera. I was like, imagine if things were a little financially easier on us. Imagine what I could do with that. So I did eventually get accepted into the partner program 2 years after this. I still have the email. And I thought, oh, yes, now we're going to be moving. My first month of ad revenue, I earned 3 cents or 13 cents, one of the two. I thought I was going to be earning thousands. Like, hey, I'm PewDiePie. That's not what happened. It was years and many more, another 5 years or something like that, where I started generating enough revenue to invest into better cameras, better editing, lights, microphones, stuff like that. And then I thought, if I could do all of this from my basement, imagine if I had a building dedicated to the hobby. So it constantly, that's why I think that people should monetize. It's not to profit. Just like I see potential in somebody, and I'm like, the only thing kind of holding you back is time and money. You need more time to be able to dedicate to this, and of course, you need more money. I know what it's like to put a strain on your family from what we're doing, and that's why I say it's okay to monetize, and that's why I try to get people to. It's not because I'm like, yeah, make as much money as from this as you can, because I know people that do it just for the money and are open about it to me. I don't make videos with them or anything. I don't even promote them because it's just not my style, but that's why I say, and why I got you to monetize, like, imagine what you could do.
Yep.
Like, if you were making a little bit more and you could justify the hours you're putting into it. Like, hey, at least I made $300. Turns out I'm making $3 an hour or something. But
yeah, you told me to monetize. I clicked the button and monetized, and my first check was like $72,000. I couldn't believe it. It was crazy.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I've never gotten a $72,000 check. That was totally a joke. I don't even remember.
KGTropicals make $72,000 a month.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't that?
Yeah, that's life changing.
I tell you, I could spend that. I mean, that'd be no problem. But no, I didn't really make what would be considered real money till I had my channel almost 10 years. I mean, well, no, I guess that would have been last year, but it was like 2019. Because as you know, I took a little break, and that's, I get asked so many times, do I regret taking that break? And I don't, because you would always tell me the things that I was doing wrong, not in a bad way, but as a friendly way of advising me of what I should do. Wouldn't listen to you. I wouldn't listen to others. I was just completely ignorant and had no clue what I was doing, but couldn't understand why I wasn't making any money. So I took my break, and coming back from that break, I was open to hearing other people's advice and stuff like that. And that's when I actually was able to start doing something serious on YouTube. And I will never, ever forget when I took my break, which was early 2017, you were in the 300,000 subscriber range. I'm pretty sure. Maybe 400. And then I leave. And when I left, I was gone. Like I still have my aquariums and I still did all of that. I wasn't watching anybody do fish videos. I wasn't watching your videos or anybody's. Like I was out.
Done, yeah.
And so I come back September of 2018 and I'm just like, you know what? I'm ready to become a part of this community again. Let me go on there and see what's going on. Joey has 1.2 million subscribers. What? Like, I'm like, who did he pay? But no, that was absolutely shocking to me. Not that you didn't deserve it, but I was like, what happened? And then there was a bunch of other channels too that had blown up. I was like, I missed everybody blowing up.
And I do not regret my Illuminati membership. But one of the one of the things that you know, I don't think it's important for everybody to know, but a lot of the times where I'm behind the scenes, like even coaching and pushing people, like I did that with you, like you mentioned, Dustin's Fish Tanks, Aquarium Co-op. I helped a lot of channels, but even channels that were never a channel until like Rachel O'Leary, getting her to film, getting her to start doing YouTube. And she did it for quite a few years. But these days, I remember what it was like being the number one channel at 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 subscribers. And I was number one. And I wasn't making a penny. I didn't know if I ever would or what I had nobody to look up to. I was always leading the way. But nowadays, with a lot of people, they can justify by saying, look at Joey. If I keep working hard, look what I could potentially become. And that's why a lot of the times I'll even show creators, here's what I made and this is what's possible and here's what you got to do. But in order to get this to this point as a creator, you have to be original, you have to be authentic, but even more importantly, maintain your integrity and morality in the backgrounds of your videos. If you want longevity and you want to actually have a true lasting impact on the hobby, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. But that is my take, of course, on if influencers are good or bad. I guess, obviously, sometimes yes and no. But again, it's up to the community to face us.
The thing is, I've learned, and I need to go on a sidebar here real quick because you're really bothering me with the way you're saying something. And I know people are going to say it in the comment section. In Canada, do we say longevity? Is that how you say it? Because here we say longevity. Okay, so that's just the Joey way of saying it. That's fine. I'm married to a woman who says a lot of words differently than everybody else. So I was curious about that. But
I mispronounce a lot of things, and a lot of the times is because I don't really interact with other human beings as much as you might think I do. I've been YouTubing, I guess, along with a number of other things, but full time for almost 10 years now. I don't leave my house. When I'm researching or learning things, for the most part, when I was coming up, it was all books. So whatever I didn't hear anybody saying that fish's name before. So I used to call them Vijas. And then people were like, Joey, it's Vieja. I was like, that sounds, I don't like the way that sounds. It sounds like I'm trying to be fancy. Like even longevity, longevity, that sounds like, I don't know, man. It kind of sounds kind of fancy. I'm not all that fancy. But that's the reason why a lot of my pronunciation or pronunciations is because of, I read it. I'm not an educated person, obviously.
Do you say beta or beta? Please say beta.
I say them both depending on what dad joke I'm cracking. So sometimes one beta is way better than the other beta. Like, I don't know. Depends. Okay.
I'm going to do a video coming up about the...
Bashir, biker. I think biker sounds horrible. I sound that... I feel like that sounds like... Biker just... I like... Bashir just sounds like trying too hard. I just like Bashir.
How dare you? Now you've crossed the line. You've crossed the line.
There's no K in biker.
I know, but I still say biker.
And like KTR.
I'm going to tell you why I say biker, because I used to say Bashir. It's Rachel O'Leary. It's her fault. Bashir?
Yeah,
no, she says biker. She calls them bikers, and I met Rachel in 2015 at the same aquatic experience I met you for the first time, and she's from. I've always heard her call them bikers, and I'm like, well, bikes are cool, so I'm going to call them bikers too. I have 3 of them, and I call them bikers. I love that. But what I was going to say before I had to very impolitely make fun of you for saying that word differently than me. I'm not going to say wrong, differently than me. I had this thing happen recently where I was scrolling through the internet and I found a video that royally pissed me off. And you want to talk about influence? I actually made a video about this video that's going to upload 2 weeks from now.
Drama queen.
Well, I mean, it's a. You ever heard of a?
Like I said, we have to police it. Like, how are we going to be? I can't advocate for policing the community if I'm going to laugh or say it's drama, but you do have to police it. But yeah, go ahead.
Wait a minute. Yeah, let me. This is my show, damn it. Let me finish my statement. I can talk to Joey this way because I've known him for a long time. You ever heard of a fish called a mangrove jack?
Oh yeah.
There's a video on the internet, theinternet.com, that is a mangrove jack eating another fish that's already dead. It's being fed a dead fish. That video has 4.8 million views. And it just pissed me off. Not that it's a bad video. It's just, how does that video have 4.8 million views? And you've got, not even my channel, but you've got other channels that are working hard and putting out really valuable information. And I literally show in the video a channel that is a friend of mine that has a video with 631 views. How does this get 631 when it's full of valuable information? And this channel gets 4.8 million views on one video that's just a fish eating another fish.
It's the algorithm. There's no way to control the algorithm, and the internet doesn't know it's good information. They know watch time, they know clicks, and humans have human curiosity. Gore sells. Why does my I saw this video where a guy accidentally cut his finger opening up bloodworms. You ever cut your finger on that blister packs, the tinfoil that's on it?
No.
Anyways, his finger got a little bit of blood on it. He decided to drip it into his piranha tank, and that video got 25 million views. Human curiosity. That was my channel.
That was, wasn't that James? Wasn't that Fish Room Fever? Isn't that who you're talking about? Or was that a different one? On
I don't know anybody
that happened?
No, YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go to my channel right now and, well, not right now, but. And,
I'm a little busy right now, but.
Yeah. But that did 25 million, almost 26 million. And then I fed salmon skin, 7 million. People like to see that type of like gore and stuff, but it's responsible fish keeping. It's not feeding live. I'm not a fan of feeding live for views. That is typically too dangerous, too risky, and incredibly irresponsible. Outside of the fish, its natural response. It's in a glass tank. Calm down. The fish can get hurt. For example, if I fed my fish live mice, what if that fish bites them, goes for their eyes? Or what if that mouse has some sort of parasite or pathogen? Or, there's a tremendous amount of other things that could happen from feeding live, and it's just unnecessary. And if you want to be responsible as an influencer, do you think I don't want to get hundreds of millions? I have 30 red belly piranha. I want to feed them my ex, and I think that would do a tremendous amount of views. but you kind of have to, be responsible. And I've always advocated that if they don't actually need live, and if you can get them off of live, do so. But if you're going to feed live, you should be raising the feeder fish.
Right.
That way, they're of quality of origin. You can gut load them. They're not going to be having any parasites or pathogens. But you certainly don't want to be tossing in live fish just because that's the fish's natural response. Okay, why don't I do that with my Oscars or my stingrays? Or we're not giving them their natural diets because they're not natural environments. Of course, we're going to try to replicate it the best we can. But if you think a 2,000-gallon aquarium is enough for a single Oscar, that's not what they have access to in the wild.
That's true.
I think that people that talk like that, biotype, biotope, give them what's natural. Stop it. We're doing what's best for the hobbyist interest. Obviously, if you're such a bleeding heart, don't keep fish at all. But
And at
you
the
are
end of the
going
day,
to
they
we could
are
do it
still in a glass box.
yeah, but if we do it, we could do it relatively responsibly. Um, we talk about Oscars living for 25 years. Where the heck did that number come from?
I've never had one that long.
25 years in the wild? Is that where they live for 25 years? No, they don't.
No.
They reach
And
sexual maturity, they breed, and they probably get eaten or killed by another fish if they're
right.
lucky enough to breed. And that's
What
after 2-3 years.
what I was going with before, I talked about that mangrove jack video, but I want to get into this idea that anybody can be an influencer. I just did a video. I uploaded it on Sunday,
Yeah.
which was I don't like calling it a reaction video because I think reaction videos are dumb, but it was uh, showing videos that are on the internet right now on TikTok that are, I mean, we're talking about videos that have hundreds of thousands of views, not all of them, but where it's people completely, let me show you how I clean my fish tank. I take everything out. I take it out. I spray it out with the hose, and then I bring my 10-gallon tank back in and put my 5 goldfish, 2 angelfish, and a pleco in my 10-gallon tank.
Yeah, but that's where we go back to the definition of influencer. Just because somebody has numbers doesn't make them an influencer. And that's what some people think, that they're an influencer because they got a ton of subscribers or a ton of numbers. Just because you have a big following doesn't mean you know what you're talking about.
That's
Nobody can
100%
control
true.
the algorithm. You can get tons of views for doing some of the dumbest stuff, but that doesn't mean so. Like, what do you have? Like 500, 400,000 subscribers or something? Now, say if that person that continuously does all this crazy stuff, and there's tons of channels out there that do it, gets more. Does that mean that they know more than you, or they know what they're talking about? No, I don't believe in that at all. I think that an influencer moves the needle. He
But
changes the way things, he grows things, or she, for the betterment of the hobby.
you're absolutely right. However, when you have 130, this one particular video I'm talking about that had the 4 or 5 comet goldfish, 2 angels, and a pleco in a 10-gallon tank that she just completely dismantled, cleaned everything out, and put a brand new filter in it, which was like 5 sizes too big. 139,000 views. It doesn't matter if that person believes that they're an influencer or not. The fact is, you can't tell me, and I know you're not saying this, but of those 139,000 people, there are people who were influenced by that, who saw that and said, well, it's okay to do that. That's what she did. And look, her fish look good and they're happy and healthy. And that sucks because at the end of the day, this is why I don't want to be called an influencer, because at the end of the day, anybody can be called an influencer simply
No,
because of those
I think
numbers.
I think you have two options. We can criticize and worry about what everybody else is doing, or we could take our influence seriously and responsibly by continuously making educational, inspirational, and at times entertaining videos that, as long as we stay the course and we stay the path, those people are going to fade out fast. What you're explaining, I have no idea who you're talking about. You could say
Well,
their
it's
name.
not a fish channel.
I would know. I would have no clue who they're talking about. But if somebody says John from KGTropicals, Joey from the King of DIY, Dustin from Dustin's Fish Tanks, Corey from Aquarium Co-op, people from 5 years ago that don't even have fish anymore will remember our names, and they'll trust us. Do they like to go watch these videos and see them? And why do they hit subscribe? Because they want more of that content. When that person stops making that content, people stop clicking on it. They'll fade out immediately.
Well,
It's
this
not.
person that I'm talking about, this was not a fish channel. This
So
was
don't
a
worry about it.
TikToker.
Yeah.
But you're missing the point of what I'm trying to say is that whether we call this person an influencer or not, that video had to influence people. This was not a fish channel. It's a woman, and I'm sure her channel is great, but she talks about all kinds of things.
Influence them to click subscribes because they want to see more of that. It's not influencing them in their hobby. It's not getting them to set up a tank the proper way or take the nitrogen cycle seriously. It's not influencing them in any way whatsoever other than, that was cool, I want to see it again. You forget what it's like to be a viewer. You've been in the bubble too long as a creator. And sometimes we forget. Do you not subscribe to other channels and that's what you want to see is more of that? Obviously, they influence us to a certain extent, but only if you continue to watch them. But videos like that, That's just a one and done. Maybe they'll do that one video or another video or another video, but it's more interesting. Do you think people are going to get the mangrove jack that starts off in freshwater and then eventually needs saltwater if I'm thinking about the same fish? No, it's a massive, massive fish.
40 inches.
Yeah, it's not influential at all. It's entertainment and interesting and gory, and people like to
I
watch
didn't
that.
I didn't talk about that one because it was influential. The one I'm referring more to is the woman, and there was like 6 videos that were all like this, that were people that are not fish keepers. They just have an aquarium and they needed content for TikTok. So they said,
Yeah,
let me show how I clean my aquarium.
I think I
And
seen that.
you saw my video?
No, I think I saw a TikTok where I got tagged in it a bunch. Joey, what do you think of this? I don't respond. I don't care. It has nothing
Well,
to
I
do with me.
didn't, but
Because if somebody gets in the hobby because of that person, do you know what's going to happen? Eventually, they're going to find us. And then they're going to be like, oh, well, that wasn't right at all.
that's true. But how many fish are going to die between point A and B? Then that's my point.
How many fish do you think I killed in the first year of my hobby? I don't think there's enough aquariums in this room to count to house them all.
It's true. It's true. Me
Yeah,
too.
for
But
6 months or something.
the my whole point with that whole thing, and it's not like you and I are disagreeing on this, but anybody can be an influencer, whether you and I look at them as an influencer or not. If you
Yeah.
have some 15-year-old that has a beta tank, I say beta, and they're wondering how to clean it, or they haven't cleaned it because they just don't care, and then they stumble across this video on TikTok that's this broad showing how she completely dismantles it, and that can influence them to say, oh, well, then all I have to do is take my bait out, put them in a cup, dump the tank out, scrub everything down real good, put it in. We know how that's going to turn out. And that's my
I
point.
did
That
that before.
person,
I used to do that all the time. I used to
me
think
too.
activated carbon was the solution for everything. I'm talking the first 6 months of my hobby,
I
and I'm
still use
barely
it.
keeping fish alive. It's water turning milky every other day. I'm like, what is this? Oh, it just must be the gravel or something. And carbon, carbon, carbon. Change the water, clean absolutely everything. We all did it, and eventually, what's going to happen? They're going to find actual, real hobbyists, just like I did in my aquarium club that I learned everything from. They're going to find us and or people like us eventually. So one way or the other, they're going to go through all this no matter what. What stops somebody from going to a fish store just to kill some time and buying a betta and a bowl for it, and the store doesn't care, and they go through all the same problems? It doesn't matter how they get in the hobby. The fact of the matter is that they're in the hobby, and eventually they're going to find us, and then we can turn them into actual hobbyists. Does it suck that people
You
do that?
hope
I see
anyway.
those videos all the time. I don't care. When somebody tags me, I don't respond. There was this guy that had an eel pit, and I kept getting tagged. What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And I think that they were looking for me to criticize him. I was like, that massive volume of water over all of that gravel and substrate, that alone, with the aeration that he's had, that's fine enough for biological filtration for the very little bioload that he has. But then he added filters. I think people were looking for me to criticize, but what they don't know is that I can look at something and truly analyze it, and it wasn't that bad. But this
Right.
eel pit is just like killing TikTok. It was everywhere. And I was like, man, it is kind of cool. I wouldn't want to deal with that much water underneath my house or wherever that was. I don't want to deal with the mold and the smell. And like over time, that's going to get bad. Will it get lots
That
of
was
views
in
now?
his house. That was in
I
his
don't know.
house.
It's in a basement. You go through a manhole or something. Somebody in the comments is going to be able to explain it better than me. I didn't watch much of it, but I saw it, and then I thought, yeah, it's interesting. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my type of stuff I want to watch. But is it harmful? No. Do I think people are going to be able to flood their basement and fill it with eels? No. Do I think it will get people interested in aquariums and or aquatic life? Yes. All the power to you. Then I'll see you. I'll see you at the finish line when you're
Right.
ready to take things seriously. I'll be there for you, and I'm going to be there again. I can't tell you how many people got in the hobby, and it wasn't because of me, but they eventually found me, and then they corrected a lot of mistakes and or learned a lot of it more, and then found you, and then found this person, and then found that person. They're coming to us eventually. I don't care how they get here, but once they do, we can fix it. But am I
I
gonna?
can't tell you how many times, and I know if I've had this as many times as I have, I know you've had it. It always shocks me when I'm at these events and somebody comes up to me and to my face will say, you know what? I never had aquariums. I was never interested in it. But for one reason or another, YouTube recommended one of your videos to me. I saw it, and now I have 9 aquariums.
There you go.
There is
Tell-
nothing better.
I get told it all the time as well, and that's kind of why I'm able to say, doesn't matter how they got in the hobby. They're going to find us eventually. Do you think they're just going to go and get a mangrove jack, a 40-inch fish, have a 700-gallon aquarium because they saw a cute little TikTok or something they thought was interesting or funny or fascinating? Or are they going to go to the fish store and see what's available? And maybe the fish store sucks and they're not very educational, but eventually they will jump on YouTube, because what do you do before you get into a hobby or a serious thing? We research it and we look up videos,
100%.
and I trust me, they're going to find us. And that's all that matters. I don't care how those videos perform. It sucks that they get millions of views and hundreds of thousands of followers, et cetera, but there's enough subscribers for everybody. There's enough views for everybody.
Well, and I'm not coming at this from the approach of jealousy either. It's not that. It's more, we're talking about two different things, because the argument that I had with the Mangrove Jack video was not the same as the ones with the people cleaning out their tanks. That one is more, this is an example of what not to do. The Mangrove Jack was just like, you're interested in this fantastical thing and not the videos that have real value. And you can say, and you're right, you can say, well, they might get their interest from there and then eventually find us. Well, they're not finding my friend Evan Rifkin, whose video has 630 views. I mean, maybe they will someday, but that's
Probably
the thing
not.
that
It's
bothers
based
me.
on the algorithm. My first fish was a red belly piranha. He was about 6 inches, and I put him in a 10-gallon tank. The gravel was the clown puke gravel. I had a clip on the back heater, and I had an internal box filter, the stuff that you just put filter floss in, nothing else. And then I had a little treasure chest that would open with bubbles. I had no lid, I had no light, I had nothing else. But what I did do is I fed him comets, and I did that without any research. That's how I got in the hobby. But if I didn't do that so dangerously wrong, and the dangers of feeding comets and goldfish and or everything else that I just did wrong, I probably wouldn't have gotten to the hobby if I didn't walk past that piranha tank in the mall that day.
Yep.
Like, so to me, I guess that I'm just trying to be a little bit more understanding. And after being on the internet so long, trust me, if they're serious and they want to keep fish, they're going to find us, and they're going to find people like your friend eventually. Will he pop off, or will his channel grow? I don't know. You can give him as many shout outs as you want. He could have the greatest content, but if the algorithm doesn't care, then it doesn't care. Maybe it's his thumbnails. Maybe it's the first 15 seconds. Maybe it's the way he titles. Maybe it's the way he tags. Maybe it's just his description. Maybe it's just the way he talks. Not everybody can be a YouTuber. But there are channels where you're like, how the heck are you so popular? And how do you have so many views? Or why is this happening? Because I don't understand the algorithm. I used to. I don't care anymore. I got to tell you how freeing it is to, like, I don't care how many views a video gets if it doesn't perform right or well. And, obviously a part of me was like, yeah, I would love for it to every video to do 250,000 views in the first day like they used to. But there's a lot that comes with that. And I don't want any of that anymore. I like the community that I have. I like that I remember names in my comments now. I like that. I like the way things are. I don't need to do it for money anymore. I never, even though I could say I never did it for money. Once you start making money, you're like, oh, shoot, I want to make more money because look what I can do with it. And it could be life-changing at times. But ultimately, your friend that has probably remarkable videos, and if you're vouching for him, he's probably half decent. It has nothing to do with him. It's the algorithm. It's the way it's that. It could, but it could be him, and it couldn't. It might not have anything to do with his education or his experience or the way he explains things. It could have everything to do with like a thumbnail, or the title, or how he's tagging it, or how it's ranking. But YouTube changed the way things work now. At first, you publish your video, go out to all your subscribers, and then it would immediately start getting recommended. Now, it doesn't matter if you have 1 million or 2 million or 1,000. They're going to send your video out to a test group of your subscribers who typically click your videos. And if they click this one, okay, we'll send it out to a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And the problem with like producing a ton of videos all the time is not everybody's going to click every single video.
I know,
and those videos, true. Yeah. So I might consistently these days make videos that do 50,000 views, but a couple months ago, I unboxed an eel that did over 1 million views. I can never predict. I want to get into the algorithm. I want to suck those people into my channel so they can see, like, I can make you some interesting videos that are fun to watch, but it's also going to be relatively educational and responsible as well. All your friend has to do is stay the course. If he's truly doing it for a good reason and coming from his heart, everything will come to fruition eventually.
Well, he never approached me. He never made any complaint. I picked his video out simply because I used it as an example in this video, which we'll upload within the next couple
Yeah.
weeks, of how frustrated I am. Like you're entertained. 4.8 million people watch a fish eat another fish, which it's not even. The fish was already dead. It was frozen, so it's not like there was even any gore or anything like that. It was just boop, the fish is gone, and it's this giant fish in a tank that's way too small for it. It's like 4.8 million people will watch that,
Mm-hmm.
and 630 people will watch this guy who's actually giving valuable information. That just makes me mad, and that's not even really an influence thing. Whereas the other one was, there's going to be people that are going to watch those videos and they're going to say, "Oh, well, that's how you do it because I
Yeah.
saw that person do it," and that bothers
I
me.
mean,
So
if you
anybody can be an
maybe off
influencer.
camera, you can tell me his channel name, and I'll reach out to him, and I'll maybe give him a little bit of coaching and see what happens within the next 3 months. But if he's not coachable and he's not willing to listen, nothing's going to happen. I've tried it with a tremendous amount of people. The people that listen, their channels grow.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I've done it too, and I gave up on it. I
Yeah.
can't do it anymore because it makes me mad. I used to spend hours on video conferences and stuff like that talking with people, and nobody ever listens. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna waste my time anymore. I want to help, but nobody wants to listen. So maybe it's just me. I don't know, but no,
Hmm.
he's. I mean, I'm gonna work with him. He doesn't even know that I'm doing this, and it actually makes me sad because it's going to be a spoiler because I wasn't planning on bringing this up in this video, and this is going to upload before that video does. Daggone it. So he's not going to know. I wanted him to be surprised when I talk about him in that video, but anyway, who cares? I want to ask you one last thing, and then we got to wrap this up because I've already been
Yeah.
on this way too long with you.
Well, we
Uh,
talked for an hour before this too,
I know.
mostly
What?
flirting.
So, we said we were going to keep that between us. 2017, like I said, I took a break, washed my hands of all of this, come back, and you had blown up. I've never asked you this. We've had many conversations since then. What was it that caused that blow up? Because it was like
I
a
know
million
exactly.
subscribers in a year.
No, I know exactly now. At the time, I didn't realize what it was. Um,
It's not your good looks as much as you
so,
want it to be that.
no, uh, it has everything to do with YouTube wants one thing out of you. They want you to create a few videos, and they want you to keep doing it again and again and again. So if you can come up with 4 ideas, or depending on how many videos you make, but you make videos, 4 video ideas, each one of those videos, even if the title in the next video changes slightly, they're going to start recommending each other over and over and over again, and all 4 of them, but they only want them around 3 or 4 different types of ideas. I didn't know this was going to happen, but it's like a big complaint that not a big complaint, but it's like if I were to read negative comments, like people are like, oh, Joey just sets up a tank and then gets new fish and gets rid of it, etc. Before a single fish was in the gallery, I did a live stream. 250,000 people watched it, but I said, once we set up all these 10 tanks, it's going to take about a month to do each one. Imagine if we circle back to the last one, which has now been set up for 10 months, and all those updates, and we rip it apart, new fish, new scape, and then we can keep doing it. Because I was thinking about, I can't have all this and not have content forever. But the benefit was now I can introduce you to new types of fish and new types of scapes. And there's certain types of fish that would never have happened or got so much attention if I didn't do it that way. The 4 videos that I was making was new tank, new fish, adding the fish, and then the update. And then I do it again and again, 40 times to get through all of them. But each tank was promoting the last tank. And it was just, I created this ecosystem. And that's why you see, like, even MD Fish Tank started out in a shed, and now he's got another studio, and it's the same thing. New tank, new fish, new tank, new fish, new scape, new tank, new fish, and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But the problem with that is, like, there's no longevity. You're going to have to do it again and again and again and
Right.
over and over and over and over again. But I hit the sweet spot for about 2 years where it was like new tank, new fish, new tank, new fish. But on a side note, I didn't even know it was happening. I saw that it was getting popular and popular. And then by about 2019, I had just gone robotic where I was like, okay, now I got to do a new tank, new fish, new this, new that. And I was just losing interest and, wasn't as excited anymore. And I wanted to do story time. So I lost a stingray or which I didn't lose. It was just behind the background, but I told the story behind it. I like doing that one. I like doing the why the Asian arowana is illegal to keep, and those videos did millions of views on their own. Like, I really enjoyed kind of diversifying everything. But now I'm getting
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You know why Asian arowanas are illegal in the United States? Tell me why.
You'll have to watch the video with the rest of the million people that did.
Don't do that. You tell me right now. Right? I demand.
Government. We'll put it that way. They ruin everything.
Of course it's the government. They screw everything up.
But more recently, obviously, I don't necessarily do little projects anymore. Water bottle filters, and people like, oh, I'd like to see how you do it now. I'd probably do it the same. I'm not interested in doing that. I built a bunch of new tanks recently, but it feels like it's incredibly repetitive. I'm building the same thing over and over again. It's just a different size. The 2000 was exciting because it was out of concrete. I built acrylic tanks, glass tank, plywood tanks, but I've never gone over 10 feet before. One of the tanks that I want to build now, I want to build one that's over 20 feet long. That is exciting to me. That sounds interesting. That sounds dangerous, and a whole lot can go wrong. But that's something I want to do. And I think that before the end of the year, we'll see it. But why did I go viral in the first place? It was not intentional. It was accidental. I did what YouTube wanted and kept repeating it over and over and over again. All the videos were just feeding each other. And because I didn't really want to do that anymore, now my channel and the views for each video is like, so I just get core views, but they're not recommending each other.
I'm still recording. Anymore. Lisa's like looking at me in the window. She has a yellow frog in a cup, and she's looking. I'm like, I got a big superstar on the show here, and you're interrupting. My wife.
Divorce.
Oh, she found him in the fish house, a frog. You want to bring it in and show Joey? Okay. She's gonna put him in the pond.
Climb through the window? Make her climb through the window.
I usually don't have my windows open, but it's a cool night. I automatically assumed it was you have a video that went absolutely bananas. It was a stingray video, and it was like adding stingrays to the tank. It's got like 7 million views or something like that. Don't you?
I've added stingrays to the tank 3 times. I have a video titled almost the same.
Don't act like you don't know what video I'm talking about. If it has 7 million views, you know which video I'm talking about. You have
the
one
only
video.
One with 7 million, 30 per hour. Oh, stingray added to the aquarium. So it was a little pearl stingray that I rescued tactically, added to my angelfish tank. How
many views does it have?
5.5. But that tank went crazy anyways, because the video before that did 4.4 million.
So you get a couple bangers like that in a row, it's going to absolutely blow up.
They're both the same. I added the fish. That's why, like, people will do new aquarium, new fish shopping. And I think these days, I don't really see anything different. They're all kind of following the same template. But I didn't even know that I kind of created, and I'm kind of waiting to see what's next in terms of aquarium channels and what comes up next. But for me, I think I'm going back to like 2013, 2014 days, where I'm going to do these. If I build this tank, I'm going to build it like I used to, incredibly boring and step by step.
I've been saying it for the longest time, and I'm pretty sure I have said it to you. I would love to see you bring back those. Hey, everyone. Hi,
everybody. Joey here again, and welcome back.
There it is.
On today's video. And then there was the closing. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd also like to thank you for watching. And if you join me next week, I'll have a new do-it-yourself project. Ding, 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 ding. Then the arowana swims across. Right across my chest.
I totally ripped that intro off. I'm not going to lie to you. I did.
Cool. It's cool.
I did a very similar thing with an Oscar that swam by, and I revealed my logo. If there's ever been anything, you've inspired me a lot, but you want to talk about influence.
It was just super cool.
But your intro that you had, which nobody does intros anymore, and that sucks because I used to love intros. Your intro of the arowana swimming and then folding in half and turning around and exposing your logo, that was freaking brilliant.
Nobody does intros anymore for a specific reason. You have about 15 seconds to hook the viewer. Yes, they clicked. Yes, they read the title. But if they're not like a fan, they're going to decide to go on to something else within the first 5 to 15 seconds. So you have 2 options. You can be like, take a some people take forever to introduce or have a bunch of logos, but for the average, that's great for your subs. But for the average viewer, like, man, they're going to go, they're gone. So what I discovered was I don't even introduce myself. At one point I was like, I'm going to skip introducing myself and just jump right into it. Um, but yeah, in order to have those energy levels at all times, I was always downing Red Bulls and Monsters and coffees. And some people are like, "Oh, he's definitely on drugs." You could just tell. I'm like, "No, I'm over caffeinated." But in order to act like that, because I don't walk around my house, because I used to think Dustin from Dustin's Fish Tanks was just always high energy, always screaming, always yelling, till you meet him, and he's just. I'm like, "Bro, do you not like me or
okay?
something?" He's just so chill.
Yep.
It's the same thing. I just amp myself up. I guess in person, I'm probably a little bit more similar to the YouTube guy, where I am a little bit more hyper than the average person. But it's exciting for me, and I'm a people person, and it's it sucks to leave my house and my fish and my family, but it's also fun to be around human beings that are there in person as opposed to watching on a screen or whatever. So that's always fun. But that's
Speaking
depressing.
Of which, we've gotta get you down to North Carolina, man. Look, there's a great show down here. I think it's in May. We talked about it before we started recording. We got to get you down for that. We can put you up. I mean, you and Tamara come here, hang out. We'll have a good time and get that human to human contact. We've been talking about it ever since I moved here. I want to say it was in May this year.
May?
And yeah.
I'm getting married next May.
Well, then why don't you postpone the wedding? I mean, come on, get your priorities straight.
Yeah. I typically do put my hobby ahead of my family, but
but in all seriousness, congratulations! I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you were.
Depends on what day or what week or whatever it is, but it might just not be possible. Apparently, I should, take this date relatively seriously, and then honeymoon and stuff like that. And,
it's kind of important. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I think you should put that before fish for sure. But listen, we could go all night long. I didn't mean for that to sound weird, but we could talk easily, and we have many times for hours and hours and hours and hours. But we're going to get to the point where I'm going to run out of things to talk about. I know you won't, but at some point this does have to end. We've been recording for an hour and 22 minutes, so I think that's probably gonna be long enough, because what more do we have to talk about? This is the one time where I think in my podcast I have not done the most talking, and I mean that in a good way. That's a good thing, because
it's fine. I mean, a lot of the times, a lot of these things don't even scrape the surface of a conversation, and I believe that podcasts always be as long as they need to be or should be. Even when I ran mine, some of them were like 2 and 3 hours, some of them were like an hour. But for me, I simply lost interest in doing it, because it went from, I think that I just need a consistent podcast co-host to continuously talk to. I'm not a huge fan of doing the interviews, because I don't like to interview people. I don't know what to ask. And even if I ask them, it's just always the same thing. And, not everybody can talk for like an hour or two. So It's hard to push the conversation and continue to talk and keep it interesting for people that are commuting to work and or just cleaning their tanks with this in the background or something like that. I never listen to a podcast and just sit there and watch it. Some people might, but I don't. I always got something else on the go. And then I'll hear something and I'll run back and I'll rewind it to see what they look like when they said it.
Yeah, anyways. I've always said I will not do this anymore. Like, if I'm going to have a guest, it's going to be in person, or I'm not going to do it. But I don't know when the next time I'm going to get to see you. I was on your podcast, Lisa and I. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. I don't know when I'm going to see you again in person. So if I'm going to have you on, then we're going to have to do it this way. And if I'm talking about influencers, it's a no-brainer to have you on. So I appreciate you doing it. We absolutely could.
Well, if your subscribers want to see me back on, let me know in the comment section below. More importantly, what are some topics you want to cover? Would you like to see John and I react to some viral clips and or things we don't like, or would you like us to debate a subject? Let me know in the comment section below. John, thanks for having me. You're also welcome. But I'm 15 minutes late for an appointment. Luckily, it's only 5 minutes down the road.
Well, you better get to it. We can't talk about what that appointment is. I wish we could.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Yeah. You too, brother. Thank you. Take care.
Love you.
Say bye.